Senator Graham, you said this about Senator Webb's amendment. It would have been a nightmare for the ages if Congress had passed the Webb amendment and it became law because you have deployment by polls. The Army missed its recruiting goals in June. 72% of the soldiers in Iraq are members of the U.S. Army. Is the Army being broken by this war? And why not give these Army members and their families a year off after being deployed for a year?
The worst thing I think we could do in this war or any other war is start micromanaging deployment of forces by the Congress. The operational control of the war residing in the Senate or the House would be a nightmare. Politicians are worried about the next election. Commanders need troops based on what happens on the ground. So I think any idea that basically allows senators and congressmen to start commanding troops should fail and will fail. As far as the stress of the military, it has been an enormously difficult war, and I was in Baghdad on July the 4th of this year. We had the highest re-enlistment, the largest re-enlistment ceremony in a wartime environment known to our country. The one thing I can tell you about our troops, they are doing things we've never done before because there's more of them. The surge is producing results. The biggest result from these brave men and women's new effort is that the Sunnis who've tasted al-Qaeda's life in the Sunni part of Iraq, Anbar province, when he was running for the Senate, it was declared lost. Well, it has been recaptured, and the people living in Anbar have chosen to align themselves with us because al-Qaeda overplayed their hand. The military is not the problem. The military will do what they're capable of doing only if we stand behind them. The problem is trying to politicize this war, have decisions made in Congress that affect military operations. I will not vote for anything until General Petraeus passes on it. No senator, no congressman, no matter how much I respect you, you're not going to be able, in my opinion, to give the advice that General Petraeus can give, and I'm going to wait till he comes back and listen to his advice and not some politician.
But you also identified another problem. Here's Lindsey Graham on Tuesday. The current political leadership in Iraq is paralyzed. They're incapable, in my opinion, of making the hard decisions they need to make. You need a change in people, a change in attitude. The director of the CIA is quoted in the Washington Post as saying in November, the government of Iraq is unable to govern. If, in fact, the Iraqi government, after 4.5 years, is not capable of governing, is paralyzed, why are we asking American men and women to go over there and continue to fight for them?
Because it's in our national security interest to make sure that al-Qaeda does not have a safe haven. Lee Hamilton and...
But you keep mentioning al-Qaeda. Let me go back to the director of the CIA. This is Michael Hayden, again from the Post. Michael Hayden cataloged what he saw as the main sources of violence in this order: the insurgency, sectarian strife, criminality, general anarchy, and lastly, al-Qaeda. Though Hayden had listed al-Qaeda as the 5th most pressing threat in Iraq, President Bush regularly listed al-Qaeda as first.
So did General Petraeus. General Petraeus says the #1 enemy of America is al-Qaeda in Iraq, and Lee Hamilton in December said that our chief national security interest, in a sense, is al-Qaeda in Iraq. Let me tell you why you have to beat al-Qaeda in Iraq before anything else falls into place. #1, they're an extremist group who've come to this country, Iraq, to destroy this effort at democracy. And they were able to thrive under the old strategy. They were able to occupy territory in Anbar province. On this show in September last year, everyone said Anbar is gone. What did Petraeus do? He says, give me more troops, and I'm going to get out behind these walls. I'm going to live with the Iraqi army and police forces, and I'm going to try to align myself with people who reject al-Qaeda, and it is working. I went to Ramadi on the 4th of July, the 5th of July. I could not do that before. So the surge is al-Qaeda's worst nightmare. They have been diminished. The biggest success of the surge is not that we militarily pushed al-Qaeda out of Anbar, is that the people who lived in Anbar have rejected al-Qaeda and aligned themselves with us. As to the central government, there is political
respond to this? You said the same thing 3 times.
Can I just finish my thought? The political reconciliation that has led to Anbar, al-Qaeda being on the run, local people aligning themselves with coalition forces is producing results. But the central government in Baghdad is not performing the way we should. But what I would like to see happen is to allow Petraeus to keep doing what he's doing, keep the militia and the insurgents and al-Qaeda on the run, and push the Maliki government hard. Retreating and withdrawing and allowing al-Qaeda to reform and to kill all the moderates that help them is not the solution.
One last point before I bring in Senator Webb. The Prime Minister Maliki said yesterday that if the American forces leave, quote, Iraqi forces can secure their country at any time. He's basically saying, you can leave and we're just fine.
To be honest with you, I think the General Petraeus will tell us about that scenario, and I do believe in a matter of months we can turn over most of Anbar, because the big thing...
No, but the Prime Minister of Iraq is saying that he can secure his country at any time. If he's saying that, then why are we there?
Because our national security interests are also involved, and I'd like to hear from our generals as to whether or not, if we leave now, that we're going to come back with a bigger war. If Iraq fails...
But if Iraq is a sovereign country...
Yes, sir.
...and this is a sovereignly elected Prime Minister, and he's saying he can secure his own country, why do we reject that notion?
It is my belief that he's not asking us to leave. He's making a statement of confidence in his troops. I would like our general to make a statement in terms of his view of how stable it would be if we left right now, and that comes in September.
Senator Webb, do you believe al-Qaeda is the primary enemy in Iraq and threat in Iraq? And do you believe if the U.S. troops, in fact, withdrew from Iraq, we would leave behind a bloodbath and genocide?
I think they're going to have problems in Iraq whenever we leave. They have had problems in Iraq for 2,000 years. The question is the circumstances under which we leave, and that's what we have to work on, and that's what the people who basically circled their wagons around this administration, rather than moving toward the future, like for instance, Senator Warner and Senator Lugar are trying to do, are missing the boat. We have to get strong diplomatic efforts in place that are in consonance with what our military has been doing. Let me just say a couple of things about the points that Senator Graham was making. First of all, with respect to my amendment, 56 senators voted for my amendment. Senator Graham put an amendment in basically supporting the status quo. We got 41 votes. So a majority of the Senate supports what we're trying to do. And with respect to the idea that any president, would not accept this sort of congressional direction, as I said, we have in the past, presidents have in the past, the best example being when President Truman had to take the recommendation or the requirement of the Congress that you have 120 days in the military before you go overseas. And with respect to al-Qaeda, quite frankly, al-Qaeda didn't come to Iraq to try to destroy a democracy. That's a very, very flimsy democracy there. We all recognize that. Al-Qaeda came to Iraq because the United States is in Iraq. And the people in Al-Anbar are not aligning themselves with the United States. It's the enemy of my enemy is my friend. This hasn't been the Iraqi military, the national military that's been taken out al-Qaeda. It's been redneck justice. It's been these sectarian groups out there who don't like al-Qaeda. And if we leave, they still will not like al-Qaeda. So what we have to have is the proper sort of diplomatic energy, which is actually what the Iraq Study Group was proposing, along with what these military people have been doing. And we got to give them a break. This is where what I don't understand with Senator Graham, Senator Lieberman. Senator Lieberman attacked me on a show on Monday. Senator Lieberman every day is calling for a war against Iran and probably Syria. Maybe they can tell us where the line should be drawn. Maybe the United States military, all of it, should go to the Middle East and stay all the time. Somewhere in here, there has to be a rational line that protects the well-being of our troops.